What's up, everybody? It's DFS Dudes back for the Wednesday edition of Deep Dive. Today is July the 17th. Early slate is in full swing. Got a little bit of a sweat going on with lineups right there at the top. Need to get a couple of things to go my way here real quick to probably run a train on the early only and have a pretty good day. So let's get into tonight's slate. And look, real quick, I've talked time and time again about playing these shorter slates because you can really get a lot of exposure and really take not only a strong position to take a stand with some lineups, but you can really cover all the different types of ways you can stack the slate. I just think it's a huge advantage to play max entry strategy on 3 and 4 game slates. A lot of people don't like them. Cool, stay away from them. But it creates a lot of opportunity for us people that do play these smaller slates. I love the early onlys. I love the late nights when they're 3 games or 4 games. I love the early onlys when they're 3 or 4 games. I've made a lot of money on Wednesday and Thursday in DFS baseball over the past 2 or 3 years. A lot of money. It's my bread and butter. It's a sweet spot. I've got a nice strategy that goes with it. I've given you guys a strategy time and time again. I would like to see more of our logos get up in these tournaments and employ this strategy, but you got to just jump into it. These shorter slates with 3 or 4 games on them, there's a really good opportunity to stack it up every which way. If it's a 3-game slate, getting 5 stacks of each team stacked together is only 75 lineups. That's 75 4x4 stacks. The other 75, you can do a whole bunch of different things. You can go 4x3 with getting 5 guys from one team, including the pitcher, and then 4 position players, and then 2 guys from one team and a one-off. You can build a lot of lineups uniquely and cover a lot of bases doing it. So hopefully, we're in the 9th inning in some of these games. This kind of swings the way that I needed to here, but you've got to start getting in some of these tournaments. You've got to. I mean, if you're going to be successful at DFS, you have to find an advantage. You've got to figure out what you think the field is going to do, and you've got to do the opposite. So from that standpoint, let's talk about tonight's slate. It is a smaller slate. I wouldn't call it a sweet spot type slate, but close to it. A small amount of games, 9 games on this slate. You've got Garrett Cole. You've got some pretty good spots for pitching options. Mentioned on the on deck video, I really liked Chris Paddock. Eduardo Rodriguez at 8.3 on FanDuel. He's in a pretty good spot. Danny Duffy, he hasn't been bad this season. He goes against the White Sox. Maeda at 7.4 on FanDuel. Yonny Chirinos at 7.2. Felix Pena at 6.9 coming off the combined no-hitter against Seattle. Spencer Turnbull, he hasn't been terrible. He's probably borderline been their best pitcher outside of Matt Boyd. So his last outing wasn't great. His last 2 outings weren't great. 2 innings on June 27th, 3 innings on July 12th, giving up 5 earned runs over those 5 innings. Not the best, but he did have a nice little stretch, from May 21st through June 22nd where he pitched at least 5 innings in each game. Only got really beat up one time. That was against Cleveland. A lot of people will look at that today. Game log watchers. But Turnbull doesn't, he doesn't have big ISOs against him from either side of the plate. Cleveland is hot right now. So let's talk about the slate. The Dodgers they'll wrap up their 3-game set with Philadelphia. Maeda will go for the Dodgers. Nick Pivetta for the Phillies. This is a Dodgers. Just stack this up. Pavetta's got huge ISOs against him to both sides of the plate. 258 ISO to lefties, 258 ISO to righties. Pavetta's just not, he's not a real solid pitcher. And the Dodgers should be very chalky in this spot. There's no Coors Field in this slate. Coors Field was on the early slate on DraftKings, was on the main slate. I'm sorry, it was on the all-day slate on FanDuel. So, look, the Dodgers should be really chalky. Yonny Chirinos will pitch for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's at New York. Domingo Germán goes for the Yankees. This guy's got a ton of upside, man. He's got a ton of upside. He just really struggles with his control. But over his last 3 starts, he's only walked one person. He's pitched 18 innings, 6 innings in each one. Cleveland got up for 4. He gave up 1 against the Mets, and he gave up none against Toronto. Germán's in a really good spot. He has faced Tampa Bay May 10th. 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 5 earned runs. 3 earned runs, 5 strikeouts. You know, I like him in this spot a ton. It's a really good spot for Germán. You know, this is kind of coming into a little bit of a rivalry here. The Yankees and the Rays. Last night it got heated. Benches cleared for a minute. The Yankees drop a 7 spot on Tampa Bay in the bottom of that inning. Washington at Baltimore, and I said on the on-deck video, I like both sides of this. Neither one of these pitchers is outstanding. One of them's mediocre. The other one is up in the air, and both their bullpens are extremely bad. The 2 worst bullpens in baseball. To me, I like this as a stack. I like it as a game stack, and I like stacking these 2 teams with other teams, which we'll get into, the Dodgers being one of them. The Padres are at Miami. Chris Paddock against Trevor Richards. And look, Trevor Richards is 3-10. Okay? He's 3-10. He's gone at least 5 innings in 5 of his last 5 starts. And if you go back, the last time he didn't go 5 innings was May 4th against Atlanta. He went 4 1/3. So he pitched into the 5th. But Richards has gone 5 innings against the Cubs, 6 1/3 against the Mets, 5 2/3 against Detroit, 7 against the Giants, 5 against the Padres, 7 against Atlanta, and then a string of 5 and 5 2/3 starts. He's been tagged a few times. Atlanta got him for 4. Washington got him for 6. The Pirates got him for 5. But outside of that, he's given up 3 earned runs or less in each of those starts. And there's a lot of starts between May 9th, really, and July 7th, his last start. About 12 starts. 3 earned runs or less. So when I say on the on-deck video that he's pitched really well this year, he's 3-10. He plays for a team that hasn't generated a ton of offense, and I was really big on Miami yesterday. I hope you guys got a lot of Miami exposure. 13 runs yesterday. I'm not big on Miami today. I really like Chris Paddock, but I think Trevor Richards can give you a quality start at 6.4, and there's some big bats to go get with Yankees and Dodgers, etc. And at 6.4, if this guy can go 5 innings, give up 3 runs, strike out 5, the Padres have a 28% K percentage against right-handed pitching. Yeah, there's some power in that lineup, but it's a big ballpark. And here's a guy at 6.4 who has consistently shown since May 9th that he can go 5 innings. He's gone at least 5 in every single start he's started since May the 9th. And he's gone more than 6 4 times. And only 4 times he's given up more than 3 runs. He's given up no runs twice. He's given up 1 run 4 times. And 2 times he's given up 3. He's pitched decent. He's pitched well enough to get you 35 fantasy points at 6.4 and load up some big bats. So I like Richards. I think he's a really good tournament option and a really good SP2 on DK. Chris Paddock on the flip side of this guy's really been good. He's 4-4 with 5 quality starts and 13 games started. 73 Ks and 70 2/3 innings pitched. He's facing Miami. Right-handed heavy lineup. He'll go at least 5. I think he'll go 5. I think he gives you a lot of upside to go deep in this game. He's a really good pitcher with strikeout upside, and I mentioned earlier that this is a guy I might consider in cash today just because it's a matchup against Miami, a heavily right-handed matchup. He's got very low ISOs against right-handed bats. It's a guy that I like, and I think will go under owned today. And he's got he gives us an opportunity to At 8.9, go contrarian with a guy who's got a lot of upside. The problem is if you fade Garrett Cole on the slate and Garrett Cole goes nuts, you're kind of screwed in cash. That's the problem with it. But in tournaments, as a pivot, I don't mind this play. I don't mind it at all. Next game on the slate, Detroit's at Cleveland. Look, I think Mike Clevinger will be the most under-owned pitcher on the slate. I just do. His last 2 starts have been outstanding. 11 innings, 1 earned run, and 15 strikeouts. That Baltimore start, 9.4, couple of good starts, hasn't gone deep, a lot of strikeouts. But Clevinger's definitely in play here against Detroit. And Turnbull, look, I'm not going to recommend using him. I would much rather use Richards and Turnbull. So we'll just move on from that. Eduardo Rodriguez at 8.3. The thing I don't like about this is I think the Blue Jays are very contrarian. And, May 21st, he pitched against Toronto, 6 earned runs. And it just feels to me like Toronto's just got Boston's number. I just don't like Rodriguez here. I'd much rather use Paddock. Arizona at Texas, I think you can avoid both these pitchers. We talked about Texas yesterday against left-handed pitching and their left-handed bats. They've all got 200 ISOs. Hunter Pence, slept on, overinflated price. You take a look at the price on Pence. He's $4,000. But, first game back yesterday, he goes 0 for 4. Perfect. I hope people don't play Pence. I think Pence is in a good spot. Gallo's not starting. And, I could see people gravitating to Robbie Ray here. No Gallo in the lineup, etc. Kansas City will throw Danny Duffy. Ivan Nova will go for the White Sox. We know Ivan Nova is just not a good pitcher. We know he's not a good pitcher. We know he's not. Kansas City should be somewhat popular. Nova's given up at least 3 earned runs in 4 of his last 6 starts. Doesn't have a ton of strikeout upside. He goes 5 innings. No thank you. Duffy, on the other hand, look. You take a look at Duffy, okay? He leaves after 2 innings against Detroit. He was hit on his throwing hand. He gave up 4 earned runs. Okay. Let's move that aside. June 12th against Detroit, 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, 2 earned runs. June 17th against Seattle, 5 innings, 4 earned runs, 4 Ks. That's not great. But the next 3 starts are really good. 6 2/3, 6 2/3, and 8. And we're talking about Minnesota, Toronto, and Cleveland. Not terrible teams here. We've seen Toronto put a hurt on some left-handed pitchers like Chris Sale. So I don't mind Duffy in tournaments at a lower exposure rate. I think it's very contrarian. I might even consider, locking Duffy in with a 4x2 stack with somebody else in a one-off. The Royals and Duffy, and then what else can you get? The last game of the night shows Houston at the Angels. Marisnik gets his, they get payback on Marisnik yesterday. They hit him. He just pitched against the Angels in Houston on July 6th, right before the All-Star break. 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, no earned runs, a win, a quality start. The only time this season he faced the Angels. Heavy right-handed lineup. Garrett Cole at 11-4. It's the chalk spot, man. What else do you want me to tell you? It's the chalk spot. Ton of upside. The Angels, if you want to be contrarian on this slate, stack the Angels against them. You can do both. From a stack standpoint, Who are we really liking today? Well, you've got on a slate like this, you've got to kind of figure out what you think everybody else is going to do, and if you agree with what everybody else thinks. I just think that from a pitching standpoint, you know, Garrett Cole is the chalk guy. I really like Clevenger as the pivot off him. I really like Trevor Richards. I just covered him pretty deep. You know, the Padres still striking out at that 28%, close to that 28% clip I'm talking about against right-handed pitching. I do love Chris Paddock, and that's the guy I mentioned on the On Deck video this morning. If you're feeling frisky, you know, Duffy and Eduardo Rodriguez, you can load up. Stacks, I'm going to tell you the two contrarian stacks for me today are Baltimore and Anaheim. Baltimore and Anaheim. Anaheim's got something special going on. I'm just going to ride the wave. Garrett Cole will be really owned. I love Washington. Really like Cleveland. I like the Royals. I love the Dodgers. Contrarian, pick up Anaheim, pick up Baltimore. It's really that easy today for me. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Deep Dive. Until then, be cool, keep it cashing. Peace out.